Hey everybody, on December 21, 2025, India suspended all visa operations for Bangladeshis. In that same week, the logistic cost for the South Asian Textile Corridor, the blood life of both the nations, surged by 400%. For 15 years, we were told this was a golden era of integration. But by early 2026, the Hasina doctrine didn't just fail, it detonated. So, today we aren't just talking about the political shift. Today we are performing a business autopsy on collapse of how multi-billion-dollar supply chain failed. This is why world's most efficient textile corridor broke and how it's being built by the competitors. The numbers are staggering. Bangladesh NPLs, non-performing loans hit 24%, 5 lakh garment jobs lost, a 900 million energy debt to Adani Power. What was once prosperity before politics has flipped to politics at the cost of one's survival. To understand how strategic ally becomes a volatile neighbor under 18 months, we have to look at the breakdown. India's Bangladesh policy was built on single point of failure. For nearly 15 years, New Delhi treated Bangladesh not as an independent market but as an extension of one political party, the Awami League, and one leader, Sheikh Hasina. This worked as long as Hasina stayed in power, but economically, the relationship was heavily one-sided. India enjoyed a $9.3 billion trade surplus, while Bangladesh's public increasingly felt excluded from the benefit of this partnership. So when the political CEO Sheikh Hasina was suddenly removed during the July Revolution, the real customers, the Bangladeshi public, turned against the supplier India. The moment that single political link broke, the entire business relationship became unstable. Bangladesh is the world's second largest garment exporter, but its biggest weakness is hidden. It does not control its raw materials. Nearly 50% of the yarn used in Bangladeshi garment factories comes from India, from cotton hubs in Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. So the supply chain looks like this. India supplies cotton and yarn, Bangladesh stitches garments, global brands like H&M and Zara sell them worldwide. In April 2025, Bangladesh tried to break this dependency by banning Indian yarn through land ports, saying it wanted to protect the local spinners. But this wasn't just a trade decision, it was a strategic cut and it backfired badly. Within just 4 months, 353 garment factories were shut down because it couldn't deliver the yarn on time. Orders were delayed, buyers panicked, and production collapsed. When diplomacy breaks down, countries often use logistics as a weapon. That's exactly what happened here. Bangladesh sharply increased port costs. Port tariffs were raised by 41%. Tug hire charges jumped by as much as 980%. Earlier, goods moved through land ports in about 7 days. After restrictions, the same goods had to move by sea, taking up to 25 days. The single execution decision destroyed Bangladesh's biggest advantage, just-in-time manufacturing. Logistic costs exploded. Freight costs that were once 1% of product value went as high as 25.5%. For an industry that survives on thin margin, this was fatal. India made one critical assumption. The Sheikh Hasina's control over Bangladesh was permanent. When the July massacre happened, New Delhi treated it as a local law and order issue, not as a regime-ending crisis. That was the mistake. On August 5, 2024, Hasina resigned and fled. By November 17, 2025, she was sentenced to death in absentia. India also assumed that interim government under Mohammad Yunus would be short-lived. Instead, Yunus changed the direction completely. He actively reached out to China and Pakistan for soft loans, reducing Bangladesh's dependence on India and breaking India's long-held regional dominance. The final breaking point was energy and law. Adani Power supplies about 10% of Bangladesh's electricity from its Godda plant in India. But by late 2025, Bangladesh's dollar shortage meant it simply couldn't pay. Outstanding dues crossed $496 million. At the same time, India gave shelter to Sheikh Hasina. When Bangladesh sentenced her to death and demanded extradition, the issue turned into a legal deadlock, asylum versus extradition. Once this happened, diplomacy froze. And when diplomacy freezes, energy stops flow, negotiation collapse, and trust disappear. And that's when the relationship hit a wall. This wasn't just a political fallout, it was a system failure, where business, energy, and diplomacy collapsed together. In business, if 90% of revenue comes from one single client, then you don't own a business, you own a risk. India's neighborhood policy had 90% of its capital into one person. When she fell, that asset turns into liability. Is the corridor still viable in 2026? Global brands like H&M and Walmart are saying no. They are seeing a 15 to 20% surge in orders to India and Vietnam. The reliability of Bangladesh hub has been structurally damaged. If you are a manufacturer in this corridor, the playbook has changed. logistics decentralization. Don't rely on Benapol Petrobol Landport for 100% of the raw materials. Currency hedging. Move away from Taka dollar where possible. If you remember only one thing from this case, remember this: geopolitics is the infrastructure upon which economics is built. When the bridge of trust collapses, the cost of transit is infinite. Thank you so much.